I'm not going to teach. I'm going to reflect with you on what is going to take for you and I, partnering with other brethren in other nations, to begin to build resilient economies in Africa. It's actually the season, and now is the time. So as I speak, I want you to really ask yourself, what's my role? In which area can I specialize in? This is not a lecture to equip you to criticize others. That's not the intention. The intention is to stimulate you and I to see what can I do? How can I partake? And towards the end of this lecture, I will actually speak specifically about the great thing that God is doing in Uganda. So let's go on. To preface my presentation, let me begin with a comment made by Lee Kuan Yew, basically summarizing Singapore's developmental journey. He said, when we started in 1959, we knew little about how to govern or how to solve our many economic and social problems. In other words, we didn't engage because we knew. We didn't engage because we are experts. So don't wait for field to engage. Actually, you're going to find out Singapore leaders learned by doing. They learned by being involved. Now, Lee Kuan Yew continues. He said, all we had was a burning desire to change an unfair and unjust society for better. What drove us was our burning desire, the passion to see change, the passion to see Singapore change, the passion to move away from the wrath of the past into a beautiful future. That desire, that passion is what made us to step forward. And he said, in order to do that, we had to win political power. I also want to say that most, if not all, the changes that we presented today cannot be done except within political influence. So we shouldn't shy away anymore from political influence. When you are in politics, you can influence many things. And what I'm about to list here are better influence, being involved in politics. So they had to get involved in politics, and having gained power, we had to retain the support of our people to continue our unfinished business. Not only did they get involved in politics because of a burning desire to change an unfair and unjust society and make it better, but they won the political influence and they retained the political influence by the support of the people, by demonstrating tangible developments. So that's the background against which Singapore developed. Now let's look at what it will really actually take to build a resilient African economy. I've listed about 10 things here. And because of time, I cannot go deeply into them, only to kind of sensitize you. If you want to know more, I really encourage you to go and read further on these topics. Number one, if we're going to build a resilient African economy or economies, we must diversify our economies. We must diversify. A lot of nations like Nigeria are only focused on oil. That will not do it. We need to diversify. Number two, we need to invest in human capital. We need to build the capacities, the people that have the capacity to build the economy. Number three, we need to build first-class infrastructure. Infrastructural development is critical. Number four, we need to strengthen regional integration. I really like what is happening in East Africa. I think you're becoming a model, not just for the rest of Africa, but even for other continents. Number five, we must foster innovation and entrepreneurship. Even the curriculum in our schools must change to emphasize innovation and entrepreneurship. Number six, we must build financial resilience. Number seven, climate resilience and sustainability. Number eight, global partnerships and trade. And last but not the least, strengthening social safety networks. I'm going to take each of these one by one briefly and explain them. In the area of promotion of diversification of economy, there are about a few things we need to do. Number one, we must promote value addition, encouraging the processing and manufacturing of raw materials within the continent. That's the only way that our export can increase, and that's the only way we can get maximum return on our efforts. What is happening now is that most people are coming to Africa to get raw materials, and then they process it and make money from it. And they come back and sell those products to us. We need to shift. And what's here, one of the things responsible for Africa Force on raw material is the education we have received, which emphasize raw material production and external good consumption. Our curriculum didn't put much of that. So, for example, instead of exporting raw cocoa, it's trying to produce chocolate. In some nations like Ghana, even some activities in Uganda are beginning to shift. And if you know the key emphasis of the current government of Uganda, if you listen carefully, has been value addition. Value addition. The second aspect of the economy is education and skills development. If then we have to train the people that have the skills. As I said, our education curriculum is totally empty of value addition techniques.
Sorry, I think we've lost Professor. Okay, he's back. He's coming back. Okay, his network seems unstable. He's back in the room, but his mic is still off.
Why we need to build resilient economies. And let's wait for the professor. Welcome back, Prof. You're muted. Professor, you're muted.
I am so sorry, but it's network, but we are sorting it out. Okay. Can you see my slide?
Yes, the slides are on.
Okay. Now, I was talking about the importance of education. We need to train a new cadre of talents that actually have entrepreneurial skills. And I was commenting on the fact that if you actually look at our textbooks, they are default of value addition skills. So we need to rewrite those textbooks. We need to completely change the curriculum. We need to have industry-oriented university courses. We need to bring the industry and the universities together to work in tandem so that we're developing people who are relevant for industries. It's very, very important. And then, in addition to education, we need to produce people who are healthy. We must invest in healthcare systems, including preventive care, health infrastructure, in order to enhance workforce productivity. Whether we like it or not, only a healthy population can give you a productive nation. So we need to pay attention to healthcare needs and do the best to improve the health of our people for potential increased productivity. Health does increase productivity, but when people are healthy and you now give them the skills, they'll be able to produce. Number three, infrastructural development is extremely important in developing African economies. Developing efficient transport networks, roads, railways, and ports will facilitate trade within Africa and with the rest of the rest of the world. In fact, Lee Kuan Yew said in the process of developing Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew consulted with Harvard University Professor Ray Vernon, who advised him that if you want to build a viable Singapore economy, number one, you must build reliable and cheap air, seaport, and even ground transportation that will make it possible to move industries into your nation. As long as the people are disciplined and trained to work the machines, and that there was a stable and efficient government to facilitate the process for foreign entrepreneurs. What is the Professor Vernon saying? If you're going to build a viable economy, you must pay critical attention to infrastructure, especially transportation infrastructure that makes it possible for foreign goods to come in or even the goods you've manufactured to go out. So not only do you have to have infrastructure, land, sea, and air, but here he also said you must develop disciplined people who have the skills to operate the sophisticated machines that developed economy requires. And then number three, you must have efficient government that facilitates, not impede, the process of development. There are actually governmental systems that impede development instead of facilitate and accelerate development. We will talk more about this. So some of what we are talking here are not theory. These are things that other nations have actually deployed and they have seen results. The third aspect of infrastructure is energy access. We must find a way to make energy affordable, reliable and affordable energy, especially in the rural areas where people can have access. I'm happy to see the increased use of solar energy. It has really helped to make energy available, especially in the remote rural areas. If we're going to develop as an economy, we must develop energy access. And then number four aspect in terms of infrastructure is digital infrastructure. Investing in ICT infrastructure will enable the digital economy, improve access to information, and foster innovation. These things will include like expanding the internet access, enhancing mobile connectivity, and developing digital skills. That in itself will create, I think this industry alone is a huge industry globally in the billions and trillions of dollars. And Africa must deliberately develop this aspect so that we can have some share of that global digital economy. And I'm happy that I know there are things already going on in Uganda in order to enhance that. Now, the fourth thing Africa must do is to strengthen regional integration. The African Continental Free Trade Area is a wonderful idea, and all of us must support it. We can actually create more wealth trading among ourselves than insisting on exporting our goods and services abroad. Not only that we should do that, but that mustn't really be our first priority. So we should all work collectively to support it, because fully implementing the AfTA can boost intra-African trade, reduce barriers, and create larger markets for African goods and services. Regional integration can also enhance collective bargaining power, even in the global market. If we go collectively as East African bloc or even African bloc, we will have a voice and we cannot be ignored. But of course, you and I know that that integration will be challenged. There will be efforts to sabotage that, but we must work hard to negotiate collectively, not as individuals. And again, I'm happy that East African community is really making great progress in this area. Another aspect of strengthening regional integration is cross-border infrastructure. We need to develop first-class infrastructure whereby we're not wasting so much time at the border just trying to meet all the immigration and customs requirements. All of that can be facilitated. The roads that will make the goods and services to flow should be expanded, So if we do that, that alone will grow, if you will, regional integration. It will grow even our economies. And I can attest to the fact that even East African communities, with all the challenges, are seeing growth in their economies because of the free movement of goods and services across their borders. We need to invest money to make this access faster and smoother. Now, the third aspect of strengthening regional integration is actually transparency and accountability in governance. We need to be more accountable. We need to be more accountable. We need to be more accountable. I can't say that enough. Governments must work hard to make sure that their processes and systems are transparent. And one of the ways that Singapore addressed this is to digitize these processes, make them, take it away from human beings and computerize them so that the interaction between people and human is minimized, because every interface between humans has the potential of being corrupted. And that's what you see across Africa, whether it's Uganda, whether it's Nigeria, and so on and so forth. So we need to promote good governance, not only digitizing the processes so that it has minimal human face. So we need to strengthen governance structures to ensure transparency, reduce corruption, enforce the rule of law, and this will create stable environment for investment and even economic activities. And I'm happy it is already happening. INT has a conference coming up next month, October, and we're Institute for National Transformation, and we're going to focus on governance and the power of systems. Governance and the power of systems. And some of the government agencies in Uganda are coming to present innovative ideas they have deployed to promote good governance. I'm really excited about seeing that report. Now, in terms of also promoting good governance, if Africa is going to develop, it requires political stability. One of the factors that have really destabilized Africa in the last 60, 70 years are conflicts. Too many conflicts, wasting people, wasting resources, making us porous for outsiders to come and manipulate us. Look at South Sudan, less than 15 years old. Look at the state of South Sudan. Conflict. So ensuring political stability through inclusive governance and addressing social inequalities will reduce the risk of conflict that can derail economic progress. And this is where Africa is failing. Inclusive governance. Lee Kuan Yew talking about how they developed. They said, this is Lee Kuan Yew speaking, the other valuable asset we had was our people. In Singapore, people were viewed as an asset. You see, they are hardworking, they are thrifty, they are eager to learn. Although divided into several races, Singapore has 4 different races, not even tribes. Tribes are the same people, but different language and culture. Races are totally different people, Asians, Indians, Chinese, coming together to build a nation. So when you understand that though there are different races, he said, I believe that a fair and even-handed policy will get them to live peacefully together, especially if such hardships as unemployment were shared equally and not carried mainly by the minority groups. So in Singapore, they were sensitive to all the political constituencies and make sure that they take care of them, make sure that they have equal share in what happens in Singapore. And that's what has created stability. So Africans must learn in this season to learn to live together. And I also want to plead with parents, be careful the stories you cascade from generation to generation. Some of us are very good in cascading bitterness, enmity, things that do not build, but things that, so you see people so frozen by bitterness that they can't even function because of whatever their tribal leaders have told them. We need to liberate ourselves from that and learn to live together and move on as a nation. The 6th thing that Africa must do in this season is to foster innovation and entrepreneurship. We need to not only teach our people to learn to fend for themselves and stop looking to anyone to feed you. Or, Africans are very good in delegating thinking. You know, when we encounter issues, instead of sitting down and thinking on them, we're looking for consultants that will pay millions and billions of shillings to come and think for us. That season is over. We need to start thinking and looking for ways to innovate around our challenges. And these things will lead to small and medium-sized enterprises. You know, enterprises are nothing but innovative ideas to solve problems. We need to encourage that, especially among our children. Let's stop telling them when you graduate, you find a job. In Israel, their children are told, when you grow up, you will find an innovative solution. You will create companies. And that's why they are innovative, probably one of the highest innovation index country in the world, because right from childhood, they are taught to innovate and not to depend on others to think for you. That means our curriculum must change. The conversation at home must change. The conversations at schools must change. The conversation in government must change. Change to what? Innovation. Let's find the solution. Let's find the solution. You know, yes, we can invite external people to aid us, maybe guide us, maybe share the experiences, but we must take ownership of the solution of our challenges. You know, number two, second part about innovation and entrepreneurship was encourage technological adaptation. Technological adaptation. Let's be open to technology. Let's be open to computer applications. It's not enough to say that the African attitude is this is the way I was taught, this is where it has been, and so shall be forever. That attitude must change. And I thank God that our children are more adapting to technology far better than we are. But we must make sure that that is guarded by moral foundation. Technology without moral foundation will end up developing clever devils, people who will use their skills to destroy instead of use their skills in the fear of God to build and to develop. So in as much as I encourage this, it must be guarded, it must be guided, it must be laid on the foundation of strong moral values. And women, I encourage you in this season to, to forge into technological adaptation. Okay. And if we do that, Africa will grow and grow fast. The seventh thing Africa must do in this season is to build financial resilience. We must build financial resilience. What does that mean? We must strengthen our financial systems, financial institutions, financial markets, financial instruments, financial services, and currency, money. We must do it and do it faster. I'm amazed how often we go to banks and we waste so much money in banks. We waste so much money in banks instead of efficient service, and one immediately gets out. So we must do whatever it takes to make financial services easy to access and of course, accessible, especially to those in the rural area. How do we help them with their small businesses? So developing a robust financial system that include access to banking, access to credit and insurance will enhance economic stability and enable businesses and individuals to manage their risks. If we do this, it will accelerate African economic development. Another aspect of this building financial resilience is managing our debt. debt management. When we implement prudent debt management practices and avoid excessive borrowing, will protect economies from debt crisis and ensuring long-term financial stability. It is a disaster that Africans will borrow and spend instead of borrowing and invest in infrastructure, in things that can actually improve the economy. You know, but you see, that's an issue of leadership, and I pray that God will give us responsible leadership in this season that will borrow for development, but not for consumption. Now, the next aspect is climate resilience and sustainability. You know, if we're going to grow our economies, we must be sensitive to the environment. We must invest in climate resilient infrastructure and sustainable agricultural practices, okay, which will mitigate the impact of climate change. Climate change is a reality. We are beginning to see major shifts in weather pattern. Even in Uganda now, it's hard to predict even when the rain will come and so on. These are as a result of climate change. Okay, so this is crucial for African economies. We must pay attention to a new phenomenon that's going on today called carbon trade. Probably the best unpolluted environment. And something is now happening. Other nations are coming to buy up our virgin territories and using the trees and everything else to get carbon credit. It's a subtle multi-billion-dollar trade that's going on now, and they're taking advantage of African innocence. Government should have a policy on carbon trade in Africa, not just in each of the countries, but AU should have a general policy so that Africa is not exploited. Those nations cannot pollute the world and then again come to Africa and use our own clean environment to get credit for the world they have polluted. You know, they cannot eat their cake and have it. So African leaders must rise up and make sure that we are paid well for having kept a clean environment. And somebody should not come and steal it from us. Okay? All right. I talked about debt management. I talked about adaptation to climate. Now, let me talk about sustainable resource management. You know, if we're going to develop, we have to manage our natural resources very well. I like the Ugandan policy that no raw mineral shall be exported. In other words, if you like our mineral, you come and process it. In the process, you create job for our people, and we will sell it at much higher value. That's a good policy if it can be enforced. So ensuring the sustainable use of natural resources, including water, minerals, and forests, will protect ecosystems and support long-term economic viability. The beauty of Africa must be preserved. And I must say that in this season, very soon, all nations of the world, east, west, south, will be coming to Africa to enjoy nature again and also enjoy the beautiful spirit of humanity where people still love, people still share things. I met a young lady from US in Kampala last week. And I asked her, why do you come here? She said, I just love it. You know, people are still human. They still laugh. They still hug. They say, but where I come from, It's no longer the same. So she comes to Uganda 3 or 4 times just to feel the warmth of humanity. We must protect that. That's a major, major advantage that we have in this season. 9, I have 2 more points to make before I stop. If we're going to develop number 9, we must establish global partnerships and trade. And incidentally, this is the best time to do it because the Director General of World Trade Organization is an African, a lady, a very dynamic lady, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, very dynamic. And she has a heart for Africa. Question is, are we taking advantage of this so we can negotiate for equitable trade policies? This is the time to engage, and this is the time to forge ahead in that direction. Creating a favorable business environment through legal and regulatory reforms can attract foreign direct investment and bringing capital, technology, and expertise to Africa. We must be bold in this direction. We must be bold in this direction so that we can take advantage of the favor God has given us in this season. Another aspect about this global partnership is negotiating fair trade agreements. Global partners are equitable and beneficial to African economies and can actually enhance trade and investment flows while protecting local industries. There are so many barriers to exportation of African goods, so many barriers. Look at recently, a major Nigerian airline, probably one of the largest in Africa, was trying to expand their services to Europe, to the UK. It was a battle. They did everything to try to block it. Yet, UK airlines fly to Nigeria up to 5-6 times a day. They are allowed to fly their airlines, but they can't allow African airlines to fly to UK. So all kinds of trade barriers, all of that need to be addressed. And by the way, trade barrier is a major, major factor in economic growth. Lee Kuan Yew said, discussing how Singapore developed, he said, therefore, it was hard work, planning, and improvising to establish ourselves as a viable nation, linked by trade and investment to who? To the major industrial countries. Yes, we have to work hard. Yes, we have to plan very well. Yes, we have to improvise. But for us to succeed to grow the economy, we must be linked by trade and investment to the major industrial countries. That's what allows Singapore to develop. And we will continue. By the way, at the Institute for National Transformation Conference, this is one of the major topics that we'll be discussing. What are the systems that are hindering African trade abroad, African exports? What are those systems? And they are both internal and external. How do we address them? So the discussion has already started, and we must continue. We must go from rhetorics to actually addressing issues. Jubilee Network, Uganda Jubilee Network, the time has come to move into systems design and implementation. Every factor hinders from development is a system. We must learn to build counter systems. Yes, God has had our prayer. The grace demanding to these things are being released. And it's as a result of the massive prayer that you Ugandans have been praying in the last 10, 15 years. God has had it, and he's showing up to manifest himself in power, in wisdom, in knowledge, in understanding. But we must be properly positioned to harness those wisdom that God is sending. The last point I want to make concerning African resilience in African economy is we must strengthen our social networks, our social safety networks. Well, one of the things we need to do is our social protection program needs to be strengthened, implementing effective social safety nets such as unemployment benefits, health insurance, food security programs, even helping families to secure houses, their own homes. They will all protect vulnerable populations and contribute to social and economic stability. Singapore deliberately today over 95, if not 98 Koreans own their homes. The former Prime Minister Singh said, when you help them to partake in sharing, if you will, the wealth of the nation, then they will defend it with their lives. But if they don't own anything, they are not involved, they are not included. In fact, they'll be the first to destroy it because they have nothing to lose. So by helping 98% Singaporeans to own their homes, they would defend it because they have something to protect. How to help people own part of the nation. The second aspect is inclusive growth. What does that mean? We must make sure that we must have policies that ensure that economic growth doesn't only benefit the very top. In most African nations, when we calculate per capita income and we give a figure of 1,000, 2,000, it doesn't really reflect reality. You know, it's a state where a few owns everything and the rest don't own anything. So that number is irrelevant because it doesn't percolate to the ordinary people. So there must be deliberate policies to make sure that all these economic growth actually affect the women, the children, and different groups. Make sure there's equity. Okay, so those have been the 10 points that I want to share with you this morning. Economic diversification is important. Investing in human capital, especially teaching them innovation and entrepreneurship, strengthening the economy, promoting good governance, of course, fostering and entrepreneurship, building financial resilience, and then climate resilience and sustainability. Make sure we don't destroy our environment in the process of building our economies. And of course, design policies for effective partnerships and with the world and strengthening social safety network. If we can do all this, then I think that Africa will go a long way. Because African economies build resilient, reduce vulnerability to external shocks, and foster sustainable and inclusive growth, ultimately leading to a more prosperous continent. I think this is a transform Ugandan society to a modern prosperous country within 30 years. Recently, has even been GDP to 550 billion US dollars by the year 2040. So you can see that what we're talking about now is a reality, even in Uganda. Now, how do they want to do that? To shift Ugandan primary producers to value-added knowledge-based producers. That's the goal of Ugandan government today. What do they want to do? Essentially, to the GDP of Uganda was composed of 26.6% side, 7.6% in industry and manufacturing industry, and 65% culture, really primary production, subsistence farming. And they want to increase it to the service industry about 43%, manufacturing to 26%, value-added agriculture to 31%. So this journey, Uganda is undertaking it now. And I think all of us must pray for it, because much of that, about 70% or more of that burden of increasing the economy of Uganda from the current 49 billion to 550 billion in 15 years rests with the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation. And that's why they have this slogan now, to make Uganda the best. I think as we pray and fast in this season, let's pray for STI, because they are really the one trying to do much of what you had this morning for Uganda, to lead them, Uganda, to a prosperous, resilient, and the Honorable Minister, Dr. Monica Musenero, carries a lot of that burden today. I want us to really pray for her so that she can achieve that vision for Uganda. There are also many other ministries that are partaking in this. We should also pray for them. On this note, I want to thank you for inviting me to speak to you this morning, and I'm ready to take some questions. Thank you so much.